Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. You know, when I looked at the Billboard Hot 100 this morning, I was astounded because this week scanning through the returning entries and new arrivals, I could find little to complain about. Even the songs I didn't like as much weren't so much bad, and in a worse week could easily miss the bottom spot, whereas at the very best we got a plethora of solid to genuinely great songs. Now, I'm not too optimistic to expect this will last in the long term, but weeks like this, they always give me a little bit of a thrill of hope. Maybe the air is shifting as we come into the last weeks of 2015. You never know, it could happen. Of course, such wins always take a long time to build up, because it's not like the top 10 is changing all that much. Even though The Hills by the Weeknd peaked in airplay, it actually held onto the top spot in sales this week, and with the YouTube boost and strong streaming, it easily held the number one. But it'll probably be the last week for that to happen, because Hotline Bling by Drake at number 2 is dangerously close, topping streaming, close behind in sales, and still picking up significant airplay. And now that the videos dropped, it's only just a matter of time at this point. Both of these songs easily hold off What Do You Mean by Justin Bieber down to number 3, which is picking up more airplay and had solid sales and YouTube, but streaming actually slipped this week. Not a good sign for the future. In contrast, 679 by Fetty Wap and Remy Boys jumped up to number 4, even despite some weak sales and a slip on streaming, both because it's still got a lot of established presence on airplay. Granted, it didn't gain as much as Shawn Mendes with Stitches, which leapt up to number 5 on big airplay gains, strong sales, and even picking up more streaming. If it actually had any YouTube, it'd probably be on top. And now look at the situation with Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift up to number 6, which had better sales and even bigger airplay gains to compensate for YouTube slipping, but again, it's got no streaming. I don't expect this one to honestly get much bigger, but these 3 shifts were enough to hold back Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd down to number 7, even though that probably happened anyway given to its loss on airplay and sales, basically being propped up on YouTube and streaming at this point. Similar case for Locked Away by Rock City featuring Adam Levine falling down to number 8, which spent the week fading on airplay and streaming, only okay sales, and a YouTube boost that's too little too late. But of course we got the really good news this week. Watch Me by Silento falling down to number 9 off of weak sales and YouTube finally taking a hit as that viral video that caused it to spike finally fades away. And finally, with some more staying power than I expected, Good For You by Selena Gomez and A$AP Rocky spent another week clinging on to number 10 as radio and sales declined, mostly because streaming got a little bit of a boost. But again, when faced with real competition coming up from below, I can see this song being gone pretty soon. Just watch for it. And just like last week, we'll take that note to talk about our losers and dropouts. A fair few big ones this week, including 3 that never really took off the way they should have and will probably miss the year-end list one way or the other. Planes by Jeremiah and J. Cole, Buy Me a Boat by Chris Janson, and the underperforming Ghost Town by Adam Lambert. The only one that really cleaned up this year is easily the best of them, Uma Thurman by Fall Out Boy. I can't say much of the same for our losers though, 3 being the expected draws for Drake and future songs like Change Locations falling to 96, Live from the Gutter going to 93, and Diamonds Dancing tumbling down to 66. And the rest are examples of country radio rotating out songs like John Cougar, John Deere, John 316 by Keith Urban falling down to 70, and Fly by Maddie and Tay slipping down to 95. Hey, wait a minute, I'll admit it wasn't a great song from their debut, but probably could have had a good 6 more weeks on the charts. Why get rid of it this early? That makes no sense. Well, the sad fact is that country radio did elevate a whole crop of new songs this week, the biggest being the jumps for the shameless Ed Sheeran ripoff that is Die Happy Man by Thomas Rhett to 50, and the hack job Breakup in a Small Town by Sam Hunt rising up to 76. At least it got to stay a little longer by the promising Brothers Osborne going to 88, but really, is that enough? Unfortunately, that lack of quality extended to some of our other gains. Come Get Her by Ray Shrimmer rose up to 64, with one of the most grotesque videos I've seen in a while, especially as a country fan, and The Fix by Nelly featuring Jeremiah continues to offend fans of Marvin Gaye, and Good Taste by rising up to 73. It's telling that the least objectionable gains this week are coming from Antidote by Travis Scott going up to 41, and Same Old Love by Selena Gomez surging up to 18. In the latter case, it's because of the video. But moving away from tepid things to come, let's talk about some returning entries where things are actually a fair bit more interesting. Starting with
I gather this is going to be short and sweet. Short and sweet.
The rag gang got it all wrong. We ain't about to go and spend money just to flex on it. We ain't really got it like ya. I'm a type of motherfucker that'll check the check, do the math, I ain't never getting robbed.
You know this week is actually pretty tolerable when the worst song we get is an asinine novelty song that manages to coast off of a pretty solid hook from Fetty Wap, throwing rich homie Quan off his guest verse early, which was actually kind of funny, and little Dicky playing his trite ripoff of Macklemore, The Lonely Island, and Weird Al with a lot more obnoxiousness and bad Jewish jokes, mostly on the outro that just goes on way too long. Let's be honest here, this song wouldn't have come back without that hook, because the novelty only goes so far when I can just put on Thrift Shop instead. A much better song. Next. Yes, I know, by this point it's probably overplayed in the UK, but Jess Glynne's great melodic groove with the keyboards and the rollicking beat does a lot to anchor a pretty sweet love song. If I were to nitpick, I said the opening half of the chorus doesn't really hit with the same swell as the back half does, but by the time the subtle bass kicks in to match the horns, especially over that bridge, I have a really hard time complaining. And yes, I can see why some might see the clarion presentation and accessible production called to say like grocery shopping music or some silliness like that, but you know what, if my local grocery store played pop music this good, I wouldn't be getting my Triscuits and hummus and prosciutto wearing headphones.
If you're hurting, lay it all on me. Yeah, you can lay it all on me. You can lay it all on me. If you're hurting, lay it all on me.
So, not gonna lie, I've kind of cooled on this track a little bit since I covered it at first a few weeks back, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's how that lumbering beat feels a little bit out of place when it first comes in, and the crooning vocal layers feel a little bit bowled over. Thankfully, the organ and piano still bounce off of the acoustic elements pretty well. That pre-chorus has a pretty solid groove, and it's still pretty solid progression, although maybe a slight increase in tempo might make it a little bit stronger. Then again, I've always been more of a fan of Ed Sheeran playing for a more raw, soulful power instead of his more willowy range. In other words, it's perfectly likable, it's a good song, but I think I like my EDM a little bit more aggressive and on-tempo, so not quite a great one, at least for me.
Y'all better not come to my studio with that fake shit. Y'all better not come to my funeral with that fake shit. Y'all better off realizing there's nothing that y'all could do with me. All I ever ask is keep it 8 more than 92 with me, 100. Yeah, 100.
So when I covered the documentary 2 just yesterday, I didn't have much complimentary to say about 100. But the more I think about it, it's not so much that it's a bad song, but I think a larger part of it is that it's just Drake overexposure playing in this very washed out, very tired lane. And the game's more aggressive gangsta flow just doesn't fit very well over this instrumentation for me. Especially considering how he's playing Bodyguard because someone apparently put a hit out on Drake. Somehow I doubt that, mostly because the way that Drake's going, he's gonna torpedo his own career through oversaturation. Especially considering how much he's attacking rappers in more of an underground lane who could probably easily take him apart in wordplay. Yeah, sure, he took down Meek Mill, but face some real competition and it'd be a far different story. As to the game, you ever get the feeling that he likes his friends a lot more than they like him? Especially with all the name dropping in that final verse, I got that feeling. And overall, at least I'm feeling very lukewarm on this track, pretty much at best.
What's wrong with being confident? What's wrong with being confident?
Not a lot to say about the song that I didn't already say in the Demi Lovato review yesterday. Easily one of the best songs on the album, great pairing of the heavy horns with the drums, aggressively dominant and sexual lyrics that Demi is more than convincing singing, a massive chorus that can build up a pretty sparse echoing snap, and a pretty damn solid video too with a great bridge. So yeah, definitely not complaining. This song's awesome. Take more of this. So, okay, a few minor hiccups here, but we only have 3 new songs and they all at least look decent, so let's start with number 100, Love Me by the 1975.
And love me, if that's what you wanna do. And love me, if that's what you wanna do.
very new to reviewing music, I covered the self-titled album from the 1975. A band with a knack for ridiculously catchy teen anthems drenched in smoky mid-80s inspired new wave with the sort of jittery energy that comes with flying way too high and knowing exactly how much you're spiraling out of control. Of the indie rock bands that dropped in 2013, they were one of the more polarizing ones, and while I did praise them a lot, outside of their singles, I haven't really revisited their debut album all that much. Well, now they got a sophomore album primed to drop in February of 2016, and this is the lead-off single, and wow, I was not expecting this. For one, all the rubbery wailing, the interweaving vocal lines, and the off-kilter guitar, accented with horns that give this song a certain demented energy, it reminds me a bit of recent Franz Ferdinand, except with a slightly more expansive mix and nowhere near as tight of a groove. It really is messier than it has any right to be. The sort of unsettled track that gets under your skin just feels kind of awkward, and considering the song is about trying and mostly failing to embrace the narcissism expected from modern pop stars, I guess that awkwardness kind of makes sense. I don't quite love it in the same way that I did their previous singles like Chocolate or Sex, but again, this isn't a bad song. Not complaining either. Number 99, Top of the World by Tim McGraw.
Holding on to heaven, holding on to you, and you got the one like I got the one. Anywhere you're looking, it's a hell of a view. Don't know where we're gonna be, but I know we're gonna be sitting on top of the world.
So when Tim McGraw announced he was calling his next album Damn Country Music, it drew a lot of interest. Some from critics who saw it as a cynical marketing ploy to gather some swagger behind him, and some from critics who saw it as a cynical marketing ploy to cater to country traditionalists alienated from the mainstream. I figured I'd wait until I actually had a song before I started projecting. After all, with the exception of the lead-off single from his last album, it's been looking like Tim McGraw was heading back towards the neo-traditional lane. This song, on the other hand, well, doesn't really do that, but I wouldn't imply this song that's much of anything at all. The running joke that I've had is that Tim McGraw makes the country equivalent to Xanax, but in this case, it's the sort of overly synthetic lead-off single with a blend of obviously fake drums and synth and too much cymbals to flatter any sort of guitar melody. And as for to the vocals and subject matter, this feels kind of limp to me, focusing on how being in love makes you feel like you're on top of the world no matter what you might have. And again, my problem is a lack of drama and real soaring power. Without any real stakes, the song just kind of falls flat for me. Not bad, Tim McGraw at least knows how to recruit some songwriters to construct a decent hook, but pretty far from a great song. In most cases, I might skip this. And finally, number 92, I Got the Boy by Jana Kramer.
She's got the future, and I got the past. I got the class ring, she got the diamond and wedding band. I got the boy, and she got the man.
And here's a song I was looking forward to talking about this week. Most people probably recognize Jana Kramer the most from her acting career, most notably on One Tree Hill. But around 2012, she started making country music, along with a well-publicized engagement and split up with fellow country artist Brantley Gilbert. The hilarious thing is, I'd argue she was a fair bit better than Brantley Gilbert has ever been, grounding herself in solid neo-traditional textures with writing that was easily well above average, a path that Lucy Hale would take to fantastic returns with Road Between 2 years later in 2014. Now that Jana Kramer is happily married, this is the lead-off single for her newest album, 31. So what do we get with it? Honestly, pretty damn good country song. Solidly warm guitar textures, gentle drums, a prominent melody, and the sort of mature acceptance that comes with age as she looks to an old flame who's grown up and got married and moved on with his life. I do think Jana Kramer's vocals are a little bit overstated on this song, probably could afford to downplay it a little bit more, adding for a little bit more subtlety, but really, that's a minor complaint. I admit I'm a sucker for this sort of country. It's a damn good song, even though, knowing country radio, it's probably not gonna stick along for long. So yeah, that's another pretty short week. Another set of easy choices for me. Of course, Confident by Demi Lovato stands head and shoulders above the competition, but it's gonna be a ladies sweep this week, because I Got the Boy by Jana Kramer will take honorable mention, and I'm gonna have it tied with Hold My Hand by Jess Glynne. Mostly because I don't really have a dishonorable mention this week, with Save That Money by Lil Dicky, Fetty, WAP, and Rich Homie Quan taking the worst of the week. Overall, again, not a lot to complain about. Generally a pretty damn solid week. More of this, please. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.